I've been a good boy for over the last 4 weeks, not making a single video about Saint Tontus, but the whole situation is presented to me like honey to the Winnie the Pooh. I have no choice but to gobble it. So yes, I'm about to commit this sin on talking about Saint Tontus, and will probably clown on him again. All he does to the Zenless Zone Zero is really to just rotating around few different topics. Like one, he go after the bigger content creators like EO, but I believe that they kind of ghost him now. And now he's like going after the community, like saying how Zenless Zone Zero community is toxic, and the other is how they clanks up the endgame content so that it makes the game unplayable. Basically jumping back and forth between these two topics and expect people to not laugh at him. Zenless Zone Zero ruined his career, he's playing victim again, the endgame is unplayable, and here comes the new challenger, the Cosmos ZR. He was like, hey, the game is too easy, so Zenless Zone Zero is bad.
When you have the good characters, all you really have to do is mash one button and press the switch button when the enemy flashes.
It's almost like they were agreeing to lie about how unplayable is the Zenless Zone Zero, but they never talks about how are they gonna lie about it. But I think what actually happened is Saint Tontus just being himself, looping into his spiral of delusion, and Cosmos was like, yeah, I'm gonna check out some outdated video on Zenless Zone Zero and make a video based off that, without understanding the state of the game today. And Resi being Resi, he just kind of casually proved him wrong with the common sense and some gameplay. Basically Saint Tontus' favorite content creator, cause he checks on his videos all the time. And I came across this video, Billy saves Zenless Zone Zero's endgame. It's not my first time watching it, but I think the video is pretty nice to react to, and I think it's a pretty good video to actually talks about how I actually thinks about the whole situation and how I actually think about Saint Tontus, just to clarify some of my thought process. Billy saves Zenless Zone Zero endgame.
I'm at the point in my career and my viewership and my audience where I can afford to not give a fuck about what these ZZZ losers, these loser CCs, think.
Okay, so we are just 1 second in. And he's coming out with this argument like one of your high school teacher when the student in the class got the better point, and that is the only point that the teacher could make it back. I am the teacher, I have the degree, and you don't. It's exactly the same argument. It is the I lost the argument, so I use the present. So I use the appeal of authority, that kind of argument.
About what these ZZZ losers, these loser CCs, think about
twice.
me or the videos they make about me. They are irrelevant. They are summer ants to me.
But they're not gonna stop clowning on you as a summer ant. And you know what? It actually doesn't matter like how big or small of the other person is. Like, remember how Elon Musk was so insecure about his gameplay on the Path of Exile that he just hired other people to play for him? And even for me, like, back in the early days, I still remember some of the harshest comment on me, and I still couldn't forget about it. Like, one of them is like, I look like the cousin of the Asu or something. And the way he repeated the Zenless Zone Zero loser, the ZZZ loser, that's the loudest way of saying I don't care, with a megaphone.
Summer ants to me. And then you'll have a bunch of uneducated, unknowledgeable, grifting CCs that will come in like Loki Harbor, or my personal favorite for like my personal vote for one of the most useless individuals I've seen, Resi, where they'll just go in.
And now he began to paint everyone else as stupid, and he's the only one that is smart in the room. And let's see how this goes.
Just go in. They are irrelevant. They are summer ants to me.
He even pre-watched the videos of Resi. Like, what can I say? If you don't care about them, why would you watch his video, man? Like, why would you click into his channel during the live stream?
This. They are irrelevant. They are summer ants
Another
to me.
pre-watch.
It's just literally putting my face on the thumbnail.
I think I'm actually the first one to use this photo on the thumbnail, other than Saint Tontas himself. And the reason behind it is because, oh, this is like one of his best picture, right? And so I feels like, hey, I want to keep things respectable. But right now it's so overused, man. Like even myself use it like 2 or 3 times. It almost becomes a meme at this point. I never expect that. You're welcome, man.
Is like an immediate 1,000 views. Who asked?
Just like nobody else is asking you for the Sendless Zone Zero opinion. So don't be surprised when somebody else is retaliate back against you.
We bring all the evidence, all the receipts, all the proof. These clowns in the ZZZ community will be telling you that I'm spreading misinfo. The narrative that's been spread is that I apparently said, it's not what I said, that you need Yi Xuan to be able to clear these bosses.
You could bring up all the argument, you could bring up how they do the HP inflation, but as long as there are like more than 50% of the player base could get over 65,000 in daily assault, you cannot say the game is too hard. You cannot say the end game is unplayable. Yes, you have all the point, but it doesn't really reflect what actually happened. You're just trying to keep going on with your narration of the ZZZ is bad. And even if that is the case, the endgame content in most of the gacha game and even the reason why people came to this game in the first place, and not the reason why people stay. I would argue that even the vibe of the game, the art direction, and the character design, and of course, things like story, things like gameplay, plays a much larger role in terms of keeping player in the game.
If you don't have her, you won't be able to clear. On the anniversary,
obviously
they
not.
gave you a boss that only Yi Xuan can kill. They nerfed her. I actually got validation for why my Miyabi clear was so bad. Because they gave a stealth nerf to anomaly units.
Stealth nerf? Okay, if he referred to the gameplay that when he played Miyabi against the ice resistant boss, that nerf wasn't even implemented yet. It only applies to the latest version in the Deadly Assault. I believe that it's about 10% or 20% on the anomaly builds up across the board, but not the gameplay that he was having.
In the Shiyu defense.
Stop the cap.
Stop the cap.
No bullshit, bro.
Not listed anywhere. Your anomaly buildup is literally slower, with no indication of it, and so anomaly units without Yuzuha have their rate lowered by 20%.
That is straight up misinformation, man. Oh, jeez.
I have never been fucked this hard before by a pay-to-win mechanic, where the HP inflation has gone so high that you cannot clear before 230.
And you could still clear it perfectly fine. With the mediocre gameplay, then what are you complaining?
Only the newest limited unit. You can't do it.
He clears it with Billy.
And I guess the most incredible part about all of this is that he's straight up just lying about how much the skins cost because they're not $29.99. I don't know in what universe you're spending $29.99 on the skins. That's just actually not true.
Well, he's not wrong. I mean, like people spend even more on the skin, especially on the CS:GO. Like some of them are like thousands of dollars and maybe like hundreds of thousands, if I remember it correctly. Jesus. How much was that? $29. Man, that is insane, man. I mean, like, yeah, skin has always been the most lucrative part of pretty much any game. I mean, like, this is how Valorant, Apex Legends, and Overwatch makes the money.
I don't know in what universe you're spending $29.99 on the skin.
Oyo bad, Kuro better. They're both bad. Alright? They are. Because now, the Wuthering Waves' only personality trait is shit on Hoyo.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
Something ain't right.
Because now, the one's
Saint Wantas.
only personality trait is shit on Hoyo.
Yeah, and one thing about Tectone, it's almost like Tectone is getting his information about the Sunless Zone Zero all from Saint Tontas, which is probably the worst sources. And it seems like he kind of take it for granted. And yeah, he doesn't really play Sunless Zone Zero. He's not obligated to play it, right? But that's pretty much what happened when you trust the wrong person.
And they can't talk about anything else. And it's the truth.
Yeah.
And if you want to act like y'all are different.
Yeah, I mean, like, look at all these videos that he made. He was the one with the loudest mic talking down on Genshin when the Wuwa was released. And it was because he started on this trend, and that's why content creators like Saint Tontas and found their inspiration and inspired them to build the channel as the way they are. I think it is indisputable that Tectone has such a huge influence to the gacha community. It is undeniable that he is the one who started all these narration that anyone who play Genshin are retard and anyone who play Wuwa are the cool kids. But right now he is kind of like out of the gacha, so it's easy for him to say, like, both of you guys are bad. I get that people would change their opinions over time, but he was the one who created all these mess and somehow lead to this second order effects, and now it's spreading to the Sunless Zone Zero. Like, you gotta criticize the game, you gotta compare the game to get people to watch your video. I don't hate on Tectone, like hate is a really strong word. In fact, I learned a lot from him because he openly talks about how it's like to work in the content creating space. But right now I'm like, there's some point that he made on the gacha game that I don't fundamentally agreeing with him anymore. That doesn't really take away the respect that I have for him. So this is like my impression with the Tectone when he's making the content. He would actually start the conversation with something that is actually happening, like the quality of life change, like the power creeping and all this stuff. He would went into this bias territory, and this is when he conflating a lot and escalate the conversation to the point that it's so inflammatory. And sometimes he takes the accountabilities of it and get back to the base. And every time when he's in this base territory, his content is actually pretty good because he would actually sticking it to something that is real. But then he would slip back into this bias territory again and then make his way back. And I think that is like how Tectone approach his content. But when it comes to Saint Tontas, it's like he would start from a bias, and which is totally understandable because he might not has the best information, he might not has the best understanding with the game, but then he would get into this delusional territory where there's no amounts of fact and no amounts of numbers that could take him away from this territory, and then he just kind of stuck there forever. So yeah, that's basically the difference between Tectone and the Clown Tontas. So many Wuwa CC would rather only talk about the Hoyo games being bad, especially Genshin, rather hype Wuwa instead, and this man was sitting on the throne of it. Yeah, exactly that. Where was the lie? Last I checked, there was no real Wuwa community. It's mostly Hoyo haters who play Wuwa occasionally. Yeah, that's exactly, like, there's a lot of normal person playing the game, but it's the minority part of the gacha community that speaks the loudest. So it definitely gonna feel extremely toxic, because when you types one comment under the YouTube, they types 10 of it. So they are like 10-20 times louder than you. And do always remember that it's not about the community between Wuwa and the Hoyo game. It is the person. You're gonna separate that. Those people doesn't represent the 100% of player base. When people gonna realize that Tectone does this shit every time and pretend that he's some saint who try to save everyone. Yeah, and that is the kind of narration that I don't like about Tectone. he would always spread this idea of like, if you're not criticizing the game is not gonna improve. I mean, like he did for once on the Hoot House on the Staff of Homa incident. But if I've been making videos dedicating on shitting on Genshin and criticizing on Genshin, over hundreds of them for 3 years, and they still makes no change at all until Wuwa is released, which is a direct competitor that could potentially take away all the player from the Genshin. And I think the most powerful way as a player to approach the game is to really just play the game as much as you enjoy and stop playing the game before you hated it. And of course, there's this sunk cost of fallacy, but you shouldn't really spend more than you could afford in the first place in pretty much any game, because it's a hobby. So let's keep continue. He played Genshin, the game good, he start fighting CC, start drama, calling people the game was bad while farming it. I wasn't there, I don't know what happened. Then bails on the game and pretend he did nothing while everyone else was super toxic. He moved to HSR, making an entire content using HSR to shit on Genshin every day, fighting CC, creating mini Tectone to fight his behalf. Mini Tectone, do you mean like textures at the time? Yeah, I mean like that nickname was for her, if I'm not wrong about it. And praise HSR was the best game to ever exist, then bail on the game, then pretend he did nothing wrong. Then another shiny toy Wuwa came along, and he does the same things, move to Wuwa, makes an entire content around shitting on Genshin HSR and praising anyone who does while calling every Hoyo player retarded. Okay, I see the pattern. Now I see the pattern. Create more mini Tectone. We already know the bigger one, kissing the ground, Kuro walks on, then bails. Now the community is toxic and he has nothing to do with it. Jesus. That was right on the boo eyes, man.
I'll give the devs some props for the balance of the first side.
Yeah, that's a pretty good clear.
Fuck with this miasma mechanics. Remove the miasma mechanic. Just remove the fucking miasma mechanic, bro. Why is it even in the game? Hugo?
Thing here's the issue, you speak with absolutely confidence on topic you either misunderstand or demand more nuance that you give. Instead of trying to understand the opposing view, your default dismantling them often aggressively. Yeah, and I think that's part of the Saintona's problem. That's why I don't really address the point, the reasoning in the video when I'm talking about Saint, because I figure that he's not trying to reason with any Zenless Zone Zero content creator. He would just throw some random opinions that the Zenless Zone Zero is bad and weaponize your reasoning into the endless argument. So there's no point of actually taking his point seriously, because he's not coming in with good faith in the first place. Because if he were come to Zenless Zone Zero with good faith, then the conversation should have been end when he talks to Kete the 7th. I couldn't imagine the other scenario that is more noble, that is more open-minded than the one that Kete the 7th set up. But after that conversation, he still go on with the same narrative, put out the same video, still talking about the same argument over and over. So even in real life, you don't want to argue with anyone who is not trying to reason with you in the first place. When people raise valid concern, you talk circle around them, you deflect, misrepresent their point, or shift blame back to them. This pattern repeats itself across multiple discussions, and yep, that's one of my points. You also seems to escalate minor disagreement into a drama. There's clearly agenda at play. Okay. If a man saying it's going to rain every day, is he wise when it finally rains? Or is he just pushing a narrative and grasping at the one time he wasn't wrong? If there's one time that Shiyu defense or the deadly assault is actually too hard, he is gonna parade all over it and makes like 5 videos out of it. Just wait for that day to come, man. And the title is gonna be I Was Right.
And then literally have the second miasma shield. I said so many times that miasma was going to fuck up this game's endgame following miasma. I think this is a character issue. I think this involves like a kit rework or like a boss rework or something like that because it's weak to ice. I should be able to use ice unit. I should be able to use ice unit. I don't know why it's this complicated to like fight things in this game where you
realize when you have the good characters, all you really have to do is mash one button and press the switch button when the enemy flashes.
What'll it be, fellas? Mustard or ketchup?
Can't use the ice unit, the ice DPS unit against the ice weak boss because I want to hear from one of the only other big creators in the space who has talked about this game what their personal experience has been because they didn't bend over backwards.
To be honest, I have no idea what's going on with Zenless Zone Zero.
Yeah, the rest is Resi's gameplay with Debunking again, and his gameplay is really sick. And yeah, go check out his original videos and enjoy his gameplay. I guess I'm signing out. See ya guys.